Hello and welcome to another edition of Adam's Music Box, where today we remember the wonderful musical and vocal legacy of Minnie Riperton. Now, Minnie Riperton is simply one of the finest vocalists of all time in any genre. She's most associated with soul and with funk, but she had the kind of voice that could really perform in any genre. Her debut in terms of rising to public consciousness was through a psychedelic soul band called Rotary Connection. And they were very much sort of in the genre of the fifth dimension, but maybe even more on what they were calling, and I do hate this term, but they were calling it Baroque pop in the late 60s, which is kind of psychedelia that hints at some of the Baroque chamber music of the European classical canon. It's not the best label, but it's very trippy and very interesting and very fusiony in the sense of classical soul, psychedelia, and pop. And her vocals were really the star attraction of that band. But she soon found success as a solo artist. And in the time that she put out solo albums between 1970 and her death, each one was an absolute work of perfection. She may have not put out an album every single year, but she did put an album most of the years of the 1970s decade. And I would recommend listening to each of them because they're well produced, well composed, and of course, very well sung. Minnie was known for having an incredibly wide range in terms of the octaves she was able to hit. She could sing in a very low and smooth and sensual tone, and she could really jump up to those ultra high registers, but without going into a falsetto. She was able to maintain her full dynamic vocal control with what must have been quite an extraordinary diaphragm, even when singing at those very high ranges. And you can Google or YouTube rather, same company, her live performances, and you can see there was no studio trickery involved. There was no, let's do 300 takes and, splice the best ones together. No, no, no. She was the same person live without a net as she was on those great records. And it's kind of sad in a way that she died at the age of 31. One, there's the obvious tragedy of someone's life being cut short by cancer at a time that she was very much in her prime, but it's also sad from an artistic point of view because you could just tell she had so much more music to give. She was, as I said, her peak was really all throughout the late 60s into the 1970s, right up until her death. She clearly had a lot more music in her. Her career was cut short, but luckily she did cut some wonderful, wonderful albums in her life. And a point of trivia that others have mentioned before, but we'll mention it here, is that the comedian Maya Rudolph, she is also an actress. She was very successful on Saturday Night Live a while back. She is the daughter of Minnie Riperton. So, as we remember Minnie Riperton, check out all of her albums, make a playlist, put them all there, and just spend a day really admiring her vocal range, her stylistic range, her depth, her soul, the fact that she could be very calming and bucolic to extremely sensual, all within a few bars. Real supreme talent. Like, subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care.